Hello, YouTube. This is going to be a very special podcast this week because I'm not going to say what they do yet, but I'm going to introduce you to Roxy
Hello.
and Alex.
Hello.
And let's just say it. You guys worked on the movie, right?
Yes, we did.
So I managed to, through a mutual friend, I managed to pin you down for a couple of questions, if that's okay. And I'm
Absolutely.
sure if anybody watching this later has any more questions, if they leave it in the comment down below, I can get them to you, and maybe I don't know, we can do like an aftermath of
Yeah,
how
sure. Why
great
not?
this podcast is going to go. I'll call it an aftermath. I like that. So in terms of the industry, how did you both kind of get involved in where you're at the moment? Let's start there. I think it's a good place to start.
You should go first
Me.
because because mine's a bit long.
So is mine.
That's fine. We'll
We
try
have
and cut
plenty of
it down.
time, loads of
Yeah,
oodles,
you go first.
no
In a
time limits.
nutshell, when I was taking my GCSEs, Pirates of the Caribbean came out,
Nice.
and I watched the behind the scenes, and I don't know how I thought everything got made before that, but I didn't realize that working in film was like an actual thing that you could go and do. So I changed all of my A levels last minute so that I was doing an art A level.
Wow.
And then I went off to university for 3 years, went to the University of Hertfordshire, did 3 years on their creature creation and special effects course. Um,
Wow.
Once I finished that, I went and did a 10-month makeup course at Brushstrokes Studios, which was at the time it was based at Shepperton. It's now based at Longcross, I think, and I think they've got one at Elstree as
I
well.
think so, yeah.
So I did 10 months, and then from there, I sort of spent 5 years doing makeup on set, just doing like out of kit effects and stuff like that, and got bored very, very quickly because I am not somebody who likes to sit in front of a monitor and wait for somebody's bit of hair to move. Um, so that then brought me back round to like when I was at uni, I was in the workshop a lot. I really enjoyed like working with machinery, really enjoyed like sort of mold making.
Nice.
So I went back into a workshop. So my first job back in a workshop was for Ready Player One.
Oh, yeah. Name whenever you get a chance, name films. Give
Yeah,
me the lot.
sure. Um, and so I think I did 6 weeks on that, and then I did a couple of weeks at Norton Armories down in well, they're down in the West Country, but that was for Vikings. So I was making like shields and stuff like that for Vikings. And that kind of started me on my path of getting back into the workshop.
Wow.
As with anything to do with film, it takes a very long time to get anywhere because you need to build up your network, you need to get
Yeah.
to know people, people need to
Reputation
like
as
you.
well, and
Exactly, like they need to know that you're going to do the work if you're handed it.
Networking is key in this
Absolutely.
I'll bet.
industry.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
bet.
but it wasn't until, so basically, before COVID, just before COVID, I was working at Connor O'Sullivan's doing some dead bodies for The Last Duel. And I was only there for a couple of weeks because my husband and I went off on our very belated honeymoon. We could finally
Yeah.
afford it. We went on a honeymoon. Um, Came back 5 days before lockdown. But the upshot of that was that I met Stuart Leach, who was our
Okay.
multi advisor.
Wow.
And when he basically he sent me a message, I think in the October of 2020, and he was like, I'm not sure if it's your bag, but we need some like rubble making for Doctor Strange 2. And I immediately just said, yes, please get me out of Sainsbury's. I would love to do that.
Nice.
So that was then 7 months on Doctor Strange 2.
Rubble, stones.
3 months of rubble making. I kid you not, 20 1-ton bags of rubble.
Nice.
There were three of us doing it. We were doing it for 3 months
You made
straight.
so much
Yeah.
We made so much rubble. There was so much latex involved, not in a good way.
Wow.
Uh,
I love it.
so And when I finished that, I sort of like that at the time there wasn't anything. So the special effects supervisor for Doctor Strange 2, Chris Corbold, who's been doing it for years, he essentially retired, which sort of split the team off. So I didn't go back and work with them again immediately. I went off and did prosthetics mold making for the Marvels for 5 months. Followed by some dailies on the Witcher prequel, Blood Origins, which
Okay.
was
Yeah.
Roxy for as well.
Yeah.
And then it happened to be that I took a couple of months off because I was knackered. And then before I even started looking for work, Stu got in touch with me and asked if I'd like to come and do some time on Secret Invasion. So that's how I got in with the team that did Ghostbusters.
Right.
That was my first job with John Vanderpool, who is our wonderful and super sweet special effects supervisor. We both love him. He's super cute.
Did I see him on that Adam Savage video?
Advertising.
Yeah, he would have done.
Yeah, you did.
Wasn't it? Yes.
Adam Savage, that's our team.
Yeah. So
Nice.
That's our teams.
so yeah, John is super cute, super sweet. He is
We love
just the nicest supervisor I think I've ever had.
He's so cute.
And then from there we did Loki and then
Nice.
Ghostbusters.
Brilliant.
So
no
Secret
brainer.
Invasion, Loki, and Ghostbusters. That was
Ghostbusters.
with all team JVP.
Yeah.
All came across. Oh, that's brilliant. Oh, I like that. That's so good. So Roxy, come on, let's have this backstory. Come on. Where did you start?
So mine's a bit unusual, how I got into the old film industry. So basically, many years ago, I graduated in animation because originally I wanted to be an animator because I love cartoons and I love like the whole process of animation. And bear in mind, I really enjoyed doing the traditional side. So
Stop
that's
frame, that kind of stuff.
stop motion, yeah, and
Love.
also
No, I
hand
love
drawn.
it. And hand
But
drawn.
by the time I graduated, the whole CGI took a massive boom. And not that there's anything wrong with it,
No,
but I can see myself spending the rest of my life sitting in front of a computer working like that. I'm a very hands-on, practical person. I like making things with my hands and really getting in there. So yeah.
I'm angry. I like it.
So I just thought, no, I have to see what else there is. And so around that time, my mum bumped into Stuart Freeborn in a post office. Now, if you don't know who Stuart Freeborn is, he was the creator of Yoda.
No.
And he worked
Like a bit
on
of
all
Star
the
Wars.
original Star Wars films. He worked on the original Superman films with Christopher Reeves.
Oh.
Yeah, he's worked with Charlie Chaplin. He's
Into him in a
worked with
post office.
Yeah, my mum bumped into him in a post office. But anyway, he's a big name in the industry, and she met him when he was 90. This was like back in 2007, 2006, I think. And they got chatting because he was saying that, he had all this mail because he got a lot of fan mail. And they were talking away, and long story short, she was like, my daughter would love to meet you. So I just graduated, and my mum tells me that she's just bumped into this guy, and I'm just like, oh my God, what? And he said he just moved into Cranley, which was where I had lived. Well, I lived near Cranley. I lived in Brunswick with my mum at the time, back then. And then he was like, yeah, he'd love to meet me. And then from that time, I went to visit him and his wife, Kay Freeborn, for a period of 3 years every weekend just to learn from them.
Oh,
And
how good is that?
Yeah, really bizarre way. And then that's not even the start of it. So from that, he introduced me to people, some folks in the industry, and told me to go to Alexandra Palace, where I met Cliff Wallace. And he was really sweet, and he told me, because I said to him that I wanted to learn about sort of creature making and prosthetics, and I was sort of like discovering there's actually a job for this, and I thought this sounds really practical and fun, and I could really enjoy this. Let's see where it takes me. So basically, is there a puff?
Sorry, this is makeup artists kicking in here. Like this is. There we go.
Oh,
I think that's better.
Sorted.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's better.
what would I do without you? So basically, from then on there, this was when they had like the International Makeup Artist Trade Show at Alexandra Palace. God, that was years ago now.
Oh yeah, it was years ago. News from Alexandra Palace years ago, and it hasn't been around since before COVID.
Yeah, exactly. It stopped then. But basically, from then on, he introduced me to an artist called Jordu Shell, who is a famous creature designer for film. And then I told Jordu about Stuart and how, I wanted to get into this and could he give me any advice? And then he was telling me that there was a course that he did in the UK, but at that time I couldn't afford to go. So then he said, well, you come and do an internship in LA in July. So I was like, okay, we're in January now, so I'm gonna work my butt off and save up money in my full-time job when I was working in Marks and Spencer for that time, and just saved up to go to LA. And I did like a couple of months interning in Los Angeles.
Wow.
Yeah, it was insane. He was really he was good. He was very, very talented, and I met lots of wonderful, extraordinary people there. I got to meet Steve Wang, who's
Wow.
another
It was all
wonderful.
modeling stuff, was it? All kind of.
Yeah, he did like a maquettes course and a creature half mast design course. Um, and then I was helping him just like little dog's body things in the workshop.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just amazed to
A
be
way to
there.
get into the industry.
After,
Wow.
yeah, and so after that I came back to the UK, and then I did the same as Alex for a few years. I did sort of like little out of kit makeup jobs for zombie films and low budget stuff like that. And then then what? Oh
Does that
yeah,
mean
and then
kind of like independent? You go around, people come to you, or how does that work? Were you part of a group or?
how did we even do it? How
I
did it
mean, that
start?
was through. So I think the first couple of independent movies I got through friends who
Yeah.
happened to be. So like I did a scare attraction basically was my first job out of like makeup job.
Yeah.
Even before I did my makeup course, I think.
You need like a
Yeah.
WhatsApp group, something where everyone can just. I need someone who does this. Come to me.
There wasn't WhatsApp around that time.
No, I guess no.
So like 2000, yeah. So my first film, I basically just worked at a scare attraction, and one of the actors in one of the scare attractions was going on to go and do a low budget zombie movie, and basically he talked me up to the director and producer, and that was how I got my first job, essentially. So
what you know is who you know half the time, isn't it?
Yeah, it really
exactly.
is.
And then there was a lot of like, I mean, I think Facebook sort of started to come into its own in terms of advertising and stuff like that. Maybe a couple of years
I'd
after,
imagine that would be.
Like we join like makeup groups on Facebook, and they'll be saying like makeup artist for low budget horror needed, and so on and so forth.
And
so social media was quite a big thing.
A lot of sending out CVs.
Yeah, that too. Just keep sending them. Don't give up. Just be really stubborn. That's one thing I find with the industry is you just need to be stubborn and picture that there is nothing else you can do with your life. Just keep going. Yeah. Just
so Roxy, when you got back to the UK.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. Give me some films. What did we do? Where'd you go?
Okay, so the first thing I got onto was I was actually a trainee for the BBC at Holby City.
Oh wow! Do it all the makeup stuff.
I was just helping out with they had this trolley. Yeah, it was very, very incredible things I got to see, and they were making like stomachs and organs and stuff like that, and I just got to help like clean it up like after each scene and help out with some blood rigs. I would like be sitting under a table or something and pumping the blood or pumping a heart. So you have to be like out of sight when you're working with a rig. Mental. Yeah, so I did that for a month. And then after that, I got to work on Elstree at Elstree Studios. and we worked on. It's really bad. I can't remember what it's called now. North Water.
North Water, yeah. So you're a lifeguard.
That was it. Yeah, I was at Lifecast for a bit. So we worked on a North Water, and we made lots of whale blubber. And I'm really obsessed with seals. Yeah. And part of the team got to work with seals, but I didn't get to work on the seals. But I really love seals. That's an obsession of mine. But that aside, from that, then the lockdown came.
Yeah.
And then we did what we could to survive. And then suddenly I got a call from David, our David.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, Italian Dave.
Italian Dave, but I can't remember how to pronounce his surname. Cancellario. David Cancellario. Very good friend of ours. Got in touch with me, and he was like, yeah, we need more people. Are you free? And I was like, yes. And that turned out to be The Flash.
Oh, nice.
I was asked to come help in the costume effects department for making Michael Keaton's Batsuit.
No, don't say that.
Yeah.
My boy's back, and he's back.
Yeah.
And you got to help make the suit.
Yeah, we didn't make the cowl, but we basically did everything from the neck down. And
wow,
those molds.
Yeah, those molds were not person friendly. They weighed a lot.
We were, thank God David's strong.
Yeah.
We were like working with 20-30 kilo molds.
The one for his shorts was closer to 80 kilos.
God.
It was huge.
I got such PTSD from that. Yeah, no, you're right. Between 60 to 80 kilo silicone block molds we were working with for the suits.
Wow. It looked good, I've got to say. You looked good on screen. You did the job really well.
I actually enjoyed the film. I didn't think I would.
Yeah,
but I thought,
absolutely.
Well, that was actually not too bad. The suits
until no, I won't say it's not till the end. And a certain person cropped in as Superman. I was like, no, hang on, that's you've gone a little bit too far. I don't know at the end. I was like, I'm not gonna.
Oh yeah, I know which one you mean now. Yeah, I was just
I enjoyed this right up to the last 10 seconds. It's like,
yeah,
never mind. Is what it is. It was a good film. No, Keaton was good as well. I love that. Brilliant.
Yeah, no, it was an honor to.
It was a surprising good film. And I can't imagine what it'd be like to come away and think I worked on that. Actually, I can. I do a little bit of camera work, so I'd love to work in special effects. I just can't make anything. I'm terrible. I'm a demolisher. You ask anyone I know, I can.
Well, we make stuff that needs to break.
Yeah, so that's
what me in. I can do it.
Yeah.
Special effects is all about we make it.
As long as it breaks. That's
Yeah, I can.
That's it.
Yeah, normally. Go on. Yeah, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, no, it's fine. So after Flash, I went on to Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, because that was at Warner Brothers as well. So you just sort of like walk past and you're like, hey, do you need anyone? Because my contract is coming to an end on that job.
Hello.
And Aquaman was right next door, so I was like, hey,
brilliant.
guys, you need anyone? And they were like, yeah, actually we do. You just worked for such and such, so come on. And I was like, great. So I jumped onto Aquaman, and that was fun. Really lovely team. Everyone was such a blast to work with on that. It was quite funny because basically there was one thing which I helped sort of fabricate, and I had to sort of carve in and proper use a multi-tool just to sort of drill in and make like that sort of cut marks, which looked like it was on like it was like a big sacrificial table, and they were like, my supervisor was like, yeah, just go crazy on it, go full on psycho. And I was like, nice, okay. And then afterwards they were like, oh yeah, so that table's like for sacrificing babies on. And I was just like, Jesus, Warner Brothers, that's a bit dark. You just told me to go all full psycho.
That escalated quickly. Come on.
I did actually love it. Give me all the babies. It's fine. No, but that actually got a lot of screen time. I don't know if you've The Lost Kingdom.
No, sorry.
The sacrificial table is really good.
I'll have to look out for it.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch it. Look out.
Don't bother with the rest of the film. Just
No,
watch the sacrifice.
Thank you, thank you. Even
Send me
Mr.
timestamps.
Momoa gets thrown onto it, and it holds him up, and it's like, yeah, I worked on that. Not on my own, obviously, but I was involved.
Did you see
with
Momoa at all? Did you get to see him? You
Yeah.
did. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Don't tell my wife.
Yeah, he did. He did wave at me. I was like,
Really?
no, not quite. So basically, at the studios, there's a big runway because it used to be a factory for airships or something, wasn't it?
No, it was a base in the Second World War.
Yeah.
It was a
big hangar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
But it was the de Havilland aircraft manufacturing base.
Is
or
Is it the same place they use? Yeah, I used it in a few films, but I think
Harry Potter. All the Harry Potters were made.
X-Files back in the day. They did a lot of work down there, from what I remember.
Yeah, I think the first thing that went in at Leavesden when it was bought by Warner Brothers was actually Sleepy Hollow. Johnny Depp.
Wow.
Yeah. Bit of film history for you there.
Yeah,
but no, so this was in 2021. I was working. Yeah. So when I was working on Aquaman in 2021, we had to go for like a regular COVID tests every day. It was a very surreal time, and we had to wear our masks and stuff. So if you ever get to work at Leavesden Studios, bring a bicycle because it'll either take you like 20 minutes to walk from the security area to where our workshop was, or you could just have a bike. So I just thought, I'm going to have a bike. So, but where the our COVID tent was from where the workshop was, that was on the other side. So further to a point that it actually has a different postcode. That's how big the place was. Like there's different areas at Leavesden Studios, different postcodes. What? But yeah. So I was riding on my bike, as you do, and then there was one of these little trailer,
a golf buggy.
Golf buggy, that was it. But it was speeding down opposite me, just going, and I was like, "What is this asshole?" And I looked, and I was like, "Oh shit, it's Jason Momoa!" So I was like, "Hi." And he was like,
he didn't pick you up or slap on the back, and
because this big hair, flowing hair was like, and there was a guy next to him, and just my instinct was like,
he's got a golf cart. Yeah.
At first, I was like, "Who's this twat?" Speeding down.
The other side, isn't it?
It's the guy that gave me a job. Thanks, man.
Yeah, cheers, dude. No, you left me on the good side.
But we saw him a few times. Like, he's a big guy. He's very, very tall. He's like, I think, the same height as my brother, from what I saw.
I don't know your brother, so I don't want to.
Oh yeah.
Speculate.
Like everyone knows CJ. No, my brother's about, I don't know, 6'3".
Yeah.
He could, Mr. Momoa could be taller. I mean, I never actually stood right next to him, but from what I saw, I was like, okay, you look like you're CJ height or something.
The hair makes him look big. I don't
extra tall.
My wife loves the guy. I'm like,
big hair always adds to the height.
It's got to have that volume.
Gotta have that volume. Oh yeah, it is worth it, exactly. So after that, I went on to The Witcher. The Witcher, and then we started working together loads.
We had met a few years previously, hadn't we?
Yeah. So Alex and I met at the UMA Expo.
Yes.
That's another makeup artist.
Okay.
Yeah, we were introduced to each other by a mutual friend.
Yes, Anna.
And I think that was like 2017. Yeah, so because Paul and I were already married, so the year 2017.
So 2017, I met Alex and David, who's also Italian David, who's also a friend.
We have to say Italian Dave because there are so many Daves.
Yeah.
Italian David. Yeah, so that's where I met you.
Yeah.
2017. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. 7 years back. Feels like a lifetime.
Yeah. So then there was a Witcher, and then it was Blood Origin, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Blood Origin.
Yeah, Blood Origin, which is like prequel to Witcher, and then I did a few nights on The Witcher, and then after that it was Secret Invasion?
No, you did Secret Invasion with me first.
Yeah.
Because The Witcher
no.
prequel reshoots and The Witcher were shooting at the same time because we found out we were on the
You're
same.
much better than this,
same
Alex.
night. Yeah, we were working the same nights, but we were in different locations.
Right,
yeah.
So
working on different effects and stuff.
So we were both doing makeup.
So this was makeup. So we were basically, because we do prosthetic makeup, special effects. I'm just listing what I've done: costume effects, prop making. I think that's it.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. So it's a lot of variety of effects going on there traditionally.
You could, on the same movie, you could be doing different things. You could, or is your time spent like doing one thing, and then the next day maybe?
If we were employed by a particular department, that's where we stay.
Yeah.
Have you ever been employed by two departments on the same movie?
No, because generally, if they employ you for one department, that's because they need you.
Yeah.
So you haven't got time.
The other ones can
stuff.
They need your blood.
Yeah.
And I take it then Ghostbusters come about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're working on the same team from one thing to another.
Yes.
How did the Ghostbuster thing happen? How did that?
So the Ghostbuster thing happened after so both Alex and I had worked on Secret Invasion, Loki season 2, and then Ghostbusters. So basically,
I did a job in between those because John, at the time when we finished,
I worked on Wicked as well.
Yeah, so
I forgot.
Nice.
Yeah, so we did a job in between because at the time John didn't have anything. So like basically, obviously, if there's no work, you got to go find it.
Yeah.
So I think, and it was very late December.
That's true.
It was very late, like literally they were setting up the workshop, I think, the week before Christmas, which is unusual.
Yeah.
Because usually everybody shuts down for Christmas, like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
So, but it was such a fast turnaround for the shoot and B for the they obviously knew that they wanted.
They filmed that really quick. If I remember,
really fast.
We're doing it, and it's like they're doing stuff already. It's like what?
Yeah, it was only a 16-week shoot.
Wow.
Only a 16-week shoot. So you started on Ghostbusters in the January, and I joined after I'd finished on my other job in very early March.
Yep.
So yeah, and then we were both there until the end, until beginning of July.
So what were your respective roles? What did you do on the film?
You go first.
Okay, so I was assistant mold maker. Which basically consists of making molds and casting them.
So for ghosts, what did you make molds of?
So the first scene where you see all the ice people, that's our baby. We made that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And that was very, very challenging.
Yeah. So because I did watch Adam Savage, and he showed the explosion of those things. How many of those molds did you have to make? How many times did they have to set that up?
So we ended up setting it up a total of 3 times, I think. Yeah, 3 times total.
And they were very heavy too.
The molds themselves were very heavy because they were essentially meant to be full-size people.
Yeah.
They were sort of full-size people.
But that was essentially like when I joined, that was pretty much where I was put. Stuart was like, we go over here.
We kind of threw you in the deep end on that one. Yeah. And then I was doing all sorts of other things and then thrown back into it and then taken out and then thrown back in.
Need people, go and make them.
Basically.
Wow.
There was a lot of figuring out how to mold the figures.
Because they were cast out of wax.
Yeah, so they're made out of made out of something called glass wax, which is essentially what has replaced sugar glass.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
So that the wax that we use is traditionally used for like panes of breakaway glass. So we had to figure out how to mold these figures in terms of so it's a process called jacket molding or matrix molding, and basically you have the thing in front of you. You lay it up with a certain thickness of clay, and then you do the fiberglassing first. So you do all the fiberglassing first, and then you open it up, take the clay out, and you pour the silicone into the void. But you know that silicone is the exact same depth all the way through.
All the way around the...
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is really, really important for these, because obviously if we'd had something that was really, really thick, then we'd risk breaking the casts when they started coming out. So it had to all be the same depth.
Yep.
So that took a lot of figuring out. We realized fairly early on that we needed to peel it like a banana.
Is this a new technique then for you guys at the time? Was it something not really been around too often?
There's a lot of there's like different techniques depending on...
Like jacket molding has been around for a very long time. It's just figuring out which sort of process is best for your casting result. So jacket molding is very common in things like prosthetics, because you'll have it'll be like a one-piece silicone over something that then like is maybe like a full chest, but the fiberglass itself will maybe be split into 2 or 3 pieces. So you can take that off in pieces and then gently peel the silicone back in one piece and have no seams.
Right. Wow.
So for the molding for the bodies, we had to basically take each section of the mold off at one time. So like if you're working on like the right side of the chest, you take that section off, you clean the clay out, you tidy up the clay on the other side, like under the armpit and down the middle. Make sure you put your keys in it, and then you put all of that back together, glue it all up and pour the silicone in, so that then when you take the right side off, the silicone's already in that bit, so then you just need to tidy up the clay on that bit, and you basically just go around until it's all done. It's all silicone.
I'm thinking of it like, in my mind, because not been in, like pouring concrete in a void, like you do like Wow, that sounds like a very long, laborious process.
It wasn't boring. It was...
No, I mean labor intensive.
It was labor intensive for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we were in, the last week leading up to, like, we were still making stuff leading up to the actual shoot day. We only tested the mechanism like 5 days before shoot. So like we had to be sure it would work. But I think overall, like when we throughout that period of 3 months, obviously everything that we had in terms of molds, we were testing to make sure that it worked, that we could get things out in one piece, and through that process we figured out, right, we need to preheat the mold before we pour the wax in. The wax we needed at volumes like that, and the wax that it is, you have to keep it at like 125 to 127 degrees, something like that.
Oh, that's a tight margin. Wow.
So we had one of these big wax melting vats that we'd heat. So we'd heat the volumes up on the hobs, pour the volumes into the vat so that they stayed hot, and then heat up the molds. And then when we were ready
using a heat gun,
and then when we were ready to pouring it out back into a saucepan in the volumes that we needed, putting it back on the hob to keep it super hot. And
don't forget the rotation as well.
And then pouring it into the molds, and then poor Stu, and then later David.
Yeah, we got Italian David in on the job as well. We were both like, David's strong.
Yeah, they had the
we could have him rotate these really massive molds.
They had the task of basically one of the metal workers set up a couple of like manual rotor casters.
Yeah.
So,
oh, nice. Yeah,
so the mold like slipped, like we had like a sleeve that it slipped into one end, and then you'd have to manually turn it, lift it, drop it, so that you got an
picture
even coat.
This is a big fiberglass mold with silicone jacket.
It's got to be the size of a person, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. So there was the torso, which was separate. The arms were separate, hands were separate. So they were smaller molds.
Right, got it.
The bigger ones, like the leg and the torso, that they were the most challenging, because of course they were the heaviest. But yeah, that was really tricky, but it worked beautifully for those precious seconds of screen time. We worked on that for like,
I'm gonna say it's a bittersweet thing, isn't it? It must be really good to make something like that and go, oh, we did that. Especially if the process has, you have to figure out a new process, and all of a sudden, bang, it's gone.
Yeah. The day of shoot. The day of shoot.
We had to be up at 4 a.m.
We had to be up so early because we were
a bit manic as well. We were like,
well, it was funny because the production had very kindly put us up in a hotel overnight, which was literally across the road from where we're working.
Yeah.
So
very
great. That hotel didn't have any hot water that night. So that was great. So we basically went to bed having had like sink washes.
Yeah.
And then getting up very, very early the following morning to go and start setting these bodies up, because they needed to be ready for, obviously, when the camera team came in.
We had to set them up on set. So we had to put each separate body piece on a trolley and wheel it over to the set. So the workshop,
hoping and praying that it can break all the way.
Oh God, can you imagine?
We couldn't have it. We couldn't put it in a van or a car. So we were lucky that our workshop was right opposite the studio where it was that scene was being filmed.
Yeah, you don't want to take those too far.
I honestly think that John would have turned around and told them no chance if they said, so we're going to drive 15 minutes up the road to Shinfield.
Yeah.
And we were like, no, you're not.
Yeah, we're like,
no, a golf cart for you. You can use our golf cart.
So we were just wheeling. In fact, one of the legs actually broke. Do you remember that?
One of the legs did break. So there's one of the guys. It's one of the guys.
There was one of the main legs as well that was painted.
I will put it at the back. You won't see it.
As well.
He was behind the table, so you couldn't see him, but he did actually have wooden posts from the knee down.
We'll swap him around so you go at the back. Oh wow.
So that was very well planned.
But shoot day one. That, I mean, it went as well.
One
as
of the bodies actually
could.
completely broke as well before it even got.
But by that point, we didn't care because they got the main one.
They got the main one, so
it was one of those. It was one of those days where obviously, like, there was probably about 10 of us.
Yeah.
First thing, like
some of us were even wearing high vis to like be on protective body duty whilst we were dressing them up. So some of them like had a watch stuck to their jacket, which we had to hot glue on, and we had to hot glue the head on, or even before we
had to fill it with stuff.
We had to fill it with stuff like bits of
we had like vac form pieces that looked like ice cubes. We had rubber glass. We had broken.
So all that extra glass to give it.
What point did the pyrotechnics go in? Because I know there was pyrotechnics going inside these things.
No, there was no pyro in these at all.
Was it not? What was it?
No pyro.
What did I see? So, pulled something in
it was all set up on a rig that looked a bit like a scissor lift.
Yes. Okay.
So it was all set up on.
And this was designed by Mark Bullimore.
The wonderful Mark Bullimore. But so basically, it looks like a scissor lift. And when it's all on a hydraulic.
Yeah.
So when the hydraulic is released, the scissor lift collapses, and then the bodies are actually there's actually hundreds of little tiny bits of string. Through certain points on each of those ice bodies to make it break,
pinpointed,
and then all of the strings that were knotted were all different lengths, so that the right piece broke at the right time. So
really,
they wanted the head and the hands to go first, and then the body to go later. So
they all had to be like a certain length and also to do that in the right time.
Yeah,
it was insane.
Really clever.
I mean, I mean, the precision involved in that, given that each figure is slightly different and they're in a different position. You know, that is just. It comes back to me just being in awe of people who can make stuff like that. It just happened. That's just.
This was like we were on set, and then I was messaging our health and safety guy going, we need more high vises, and he's like, no, it's an active set, you'll be fine. It's like, no, you don't understand. There's 30 SAs on set right now, and they are like literally flinging themselves around, and these things are so more high vises, please.
So basically, there was a bunch of SAs as support actors. Right. So we had a lot of people who were also dressed like wax people. So because originally before so in January when I first started on the job, they wanted us to make like 20 wax figures,
which if you think about it, then like, because you need repeats, is actually 60 wax figures.
Oh, ouch.
So we were like, that's not gonna happen. Not with the amount of
quite drastically.
It did drop. So it dropped a lot, which is why we had support actors dressed as the characters as well. So it was really clever how they did that, because
when you don't notice.
No, you don't. You don't. They were really good at, but the ones that you see like on the screen, they were the wax figures.
Yeah.
But the background artists, there were some which were like,
well, the guys that we like collapsed, they were there, and they were like, I think they were proper mime artists. These guys.
Yeah, they were professional mime
artists, so that they
they're molded from people.
Yeah, so they were two of the guys were scanned.
Yeah.
Two of the guys were body scanned, and then they
in that pose.
Yeah. And then we had CNC foams made of it, and that's what we molded.
How good is it? Like the head and the hands, like it was all chopped up.
The heads and hands were 3D printed.
Yeah.
But they were 3D printed from that scan, so
they're from actual people.
And then the first one that we did was they didn't have the background artists cast yet, so it was essentially a collaboration between costume and SFX. So costume came in and dressed a dummy, and then I mean, this was just before I joined, so tell me if I say anything wrong.
Yeah, sure.
Then it was all like packed out and padded, so that it was rigid. You could pose it.
Yeah.
And then the clothing itself was resined, so that it was stiff. So obviously, like when you're pouring the silicone in, it doesn't just go.
No, so we were able to cast it properly and mold it properly. Mold it.
So that was just the first one that was basically kind of made up, and then they had the background artist match that, whereas the other two, which is the guy who's sort of leaning forwards, the one that you see on the screen with the finger, and the guy who's on the gramophone, those two were real mime artists who were then scanned, and we got them CNC'd out so that we could then make the frozen bodies.
That is amazing. That is so good. Got goosebumps. I'm like, whoa.
Well, I tell you, on the day, like when we actually went for it, you could have heard a pin drop. Not one person was saying a word. And I think one of my friends who was in the crowd, like literally leant over to me and she went, "Why aren't they rolling our rehearsals? Surely they should be rolling the camera just in case." And I was like, "I don't know." And then I mean, it all went off. Like, so the first two went off. They went really, really well. Everybody cheered. And I went, "Yay!" Oh.
Alex actually cried. She was like,
it was
so emotional.
Oh,
so like amazing.
Yeah.
Like it was. I mean, it's 3 months of my life. It was pure relief.
Can you imagine if we need a reshoot, it didn't work? You'd be like,
I mean, one of the bodies did end up collapsing before we got a chance to shoot on it, but we got him a few weeks later anyway. So the gramophone guy, because we shot on the guy behind the table and the guy with the outstretched hand first.
Yeah.
And this is the middle of June. It was very hot, very humid, and staged. And these are made of wax. So by the time you've had them set up for, I think he was set up for nearly 4 hours by the time they were
standing there for a long
time. So by the time they were turning around, and then with the added vibration on the stages and stuff like that, he just went before they could get him on camera. But
we just heard a big old.
We'd literally just gone and got our lunch.
Yeah, we heard, and then we just went silent, and we just
went, "Oh," and then we went, "Oh well, okay."
Eat your lunch while we've got time.
But we did we ended up doing like what they call element shoots, which is up against a green screen.
Yeah.
Right.
So we ended up doing
the practical effect is still shot.
Yeah.
But there's a green screen in the back, so they can still use those elements and then add it onto
them in somewhere when they need to.
Yeah. So it's still traditional.
So the gramophone guy, I think the gramophone guy did we do him twice or 3 times that day? I think we may have done him 3.
I think we did do him 3.
So we did him 3 times for the elements, and then the other 2 we did them another 2 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, just to make sure they had everything they needed, basically. And by that point, we were just like, just slap it together. It's fine.
We were pros by then. We were like, I'll be fine. Where's the hot glue? Just stick it on.
No, it's all right. It's just a little crack. It's fine.
No one's going to see it on camera. It's all right.
It's like, because all the tension had obviously been taken out by the fact that they'd already got like the money shot.
They've done the primary stuff and
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. Were there anything else other than that beginning shot that you worked on?
Well,
Slime.
there was, I mean, you worked on more than I did because I was literally with the bodies. Why don't you say about, where's your closest charger, like plug? Because I need to plug
under the table.
You can talk about that and I will plug this in.
Okay, Alex is just gonna plug in the laptop. So, now some of the scenes that I had worked on, they hadn't actually shown in the film, but it's on the extras because I saw like I think it's on Amazon, like you can click on looking at the extra
the extras behind the scenes stuff.
So there was one scene where they're in the firehouse and we spent like an hour dressing one whole room with slime.
Oh,
and
slime got
one
out.
of the characters. You remember this now, don't you?
Yes.
And we made, how many was it? Like 400 gallons.
Oh, I think over the entire shoot it was something like that. But for this particular room, they definitely used like 20.
Yeah. So overall, 400 was.
So it's the room. It's the room where James Acaster walks in and discovers Pukey.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That was extended.
That was extended. So
and he actually ended with slime angels.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, I stuck some slime on him.
Yeah. Alex was sticking slime on.
It's a shame because Acaster has a little sting with Pukey. Then you don't see him to the end of the film.
Yeah. No, that was extended.
I mean,
I think like they're probably going to add that in like
it'll be on the DVD extras or something.
Yeah, but they've sort of already released it online.
Awesome.
Like, I was just saying to Andy earlier, like on Amazon, like you can have access to them because there was another scene which I worked on with which had a Paul Rudd with Bill Murray and Paul.
Favorite people of all time. And the good things that Paul Rudd has not done a bad movie. He's been in some bad movies, but he's been the best part about it.
Yeah, I would argue that Quantum Mania was even he couldn't save that one, but yeah.
No. But I don't think anything can save that one.
Put your bitch back in the box, Jesus. But yeah, no. But yeah, anyway, so there was a scene which I had to make. A yay long icicle.
Oh yeah.
A yay long icicle.
Blocks all of this out. I was just like bodies.
All the bodies trauma. And what happened with that? So I was given the job very, very last minute to build this one icicle which needed to snap in half because Paul's character had to break it and then show it to Bill Murray and be like, is this normal? And what they were going to do was then use the VFX department, visual effects, to extend the icicle so it grew back. But they wanted the practical effect where it broke, which is where I came in.
Nice.
I had to make up like 6 of them.
You have to do real icicles.
Yeah, they directly even asked if I could use real icicles, which isn't the most ideal thing to use. We didn't actually use those in the D though.
No, that was
So when do you want it by? Next week? Well, it's going to melt.
They gave me like 3 days.
3 days. 3 days.
So I had to make a mold, and I had to do several casts. I had to experiment a little as well.
Yeah, what were they made out of?
The most ideal way. I even used like wax versions of that, which I ended up like burning. I don't know if you can see it, but do you remember I got a really nasty third-degree burn on my arm, like a blob of wax. I was wearing protective gloves, but it was just by chance, like that blob, because these gloves came up to here whilst I was rotating mold, and I had a torch on my forehead to sort of make sure that all the wax was going around the curvature of the shape of the icicle. Just this blob came out and just hit my arm, and I thought to myself, okay, 2 things can happen. I can either just carry on and fight through the pain, or just be like, fuck my arm. So of course I just carried on, and I was like,
I don't think anyone
no.
Health and safety guy.
Yeah, our health and safety guy was not with that. He was like, you've got
a long enough
burn on your arm. Which actually
need longer gloves.
About see it, but
very
the scar is very well faded. It's because I'm secretly Wolverine, so I heal really well. But yeah. So that was pretty crazy because they John even got a fridge in on set.
He bought two
freezer.
He bought two freezers.
Yeah,
so you keep these icicles.
So we could keep the molds of the icicles inside, and they didn't get used. But I think we ended up using
You used the wax one, didn't you?
I think so. I think it was the wax ones actually. Yeah. So
on screen.
Yeah, for on screen, and I had to sort of like go in and dress it up, and
it was one of those moments
where dress an icicle.
Well, yeah. I mean, throw some snow at it.
Yeah.
But I think it was one of those things where it's like at one point it was just like, does he remember that he's got the real ones? And Stu was just like,
yeah.
Stu was just like, it's okay if he hasn't asked for them, we won't.
Yeah, and it was fine, but I just thought it was really funny because we were told that there had been, because we got a chance to read the script as well, which again is very unusual, because everyone does.
No.
Usually it's usually the HOD.
You just turn up and do what you're told.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But they were like, oh, do you guys want to read the script? I was like, yes. And then they changed it because originally, so they were going to have was it Chris Rock?
I think Chris Rock was going to come into
Chris Rock was originally down to play the mayor, but he was like a really happy-go-lucky, I love Ghostbusters kind of mayor.
But stroke of genius bringing back Rich Atherton.
So. Yeah, that was a smart move. I think
that was a very smart move. I thought that was so good.
That was cool to have him in there. But originally they were going to have Chris Rock, and then that changed. But no, they kept changing the script, and then with this scene, they were just adding that in last minute, saying, "Oh, this is a really important scene," and then they cut it.
Yeah.
And I thought, I burnt my arm.
That
bloody scene.
There's a lot of that.
We bled for this movie. Yeah. You've taken it all out. Yeah. I mean, I think there was a lot on the cutting room floor at the end of the day. I think,
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot that didn't get seen at all. Like there were gags with like melting toys.
Yes, the melting toys. I forgot about that. There was and the little marshmallow men.
The marshmallow.
Yeah, the little Stay Puft guys.
We had such great fun flinging those across the room.
So we were supposed to. So we made like some little practical ones.
This was Mr. Peel, Mike Peel.
Yes, Mr. Mike Peel. He got given the lovely task of making these little marshmallow men and filling them with shaving foam and throwing them on a window.
You've just given me some ideas there. That's brilliant.
Yeah, so we were basically playing around.
Very well.
Oh
wow! I got given this at a Comic-Con the other day by another group.
Nice.
I can't throw them at people because they're quite hard, but but having something with shaving foam in, that's amazing. I like that.
Yeah, this was all a big experiment because originally they wanted to see them. Basically, they wanted them to like splat against the wall.
Yeah.
There was one that was being like hit with a hammer. So it was a case of like testing like some super deadened silicone and then testing some more with like slightly harder deadened silicone, but then filled with shaving foam so that it looked like all the marshmallow was coming out of the middle.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
We were just like, we're throwing them up against the mould room glass. Like, yeah, let me have a go.
You're having snowball fights with people.
Yeah. You have a very strange job.
Yeah,
I really do. But there was that got cut.
There's loads of stuff.
Yeah, in fact, that wasn't even used.
It wasn't used.
So Mike was making all these lovely marshmallow men and experimenting with the different types of silicone, and that didn't even get used.
I can imagine they're just lined up on a shelf somewhere, not being touched somewhere.
I think they're no, they've not been binned. They were kept, but they're probably like in a Sony lockup somewhere.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
They're probably some sort of like Indiana Jones Area 51 thing.
Yes.
There's a big container yard somewhere full of Ghostbusters.
It's got the ghost sprayed on the wooden.
And then apart from the bodies, like there was an entire team who were making all of the ice spikes.
Yes.
So that was.
I made a few icicles as well.
That was our team. So there was.
I made the mold for the giant icicles. I forgot about that.
Oh, the big ones that.
We had to make a positive and a negative mold because they were being.
They weren't all CG then.
So
there were some practical effects in there.
I mean, some of them were with the ones which were like shooting from the sand and stuff, but in
the firehouse, they're all real.
Like that big mouth of ice, that's all practical. That was all handmade. That was all there. All handmade.
I think there was Ray and Scotty, and then two fantastic trainees, Erica and Shaquila, who, bless their hearts, they really, like, you know, they really took it to, they made it their task to make these look as good as possible. And because, bless them, all they were doing for 3 months was basically like cutting out back forms, filling them with cotton wool, siliconing them, and then letting them dry overnight, and then starting the whole process again the next day. And they literally did that for like 10-12 weeks straight, and they did not complain once. They were absolute troopers. They were amazing.
And it was really,
and they really enjoyed themselves. That's good.
Yeah, we had a blast. It was incredible. And so with that, how big was the
largest one? Was 10 feet.
10 feet. That was because we added. Yeah. So I had made Stewie and I, Stuart Leach, our supervisor, and I, we made
the back form patterns, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, we had them sent off actually to be back formed.
Yeah, but you made the patterns.
But we made the patterns for giant icicles, and then we had that sent off to be vac formed. So we would get the vac form icicles back, and then they would cut them and wrap them and fill them.
Yeah.
And it was.
But they varied from I think there was 10 foot, 8 foot, 6 foot, 4 foot, and then like 18 inches or something, something like that.
Yeah.
Like they
those
were
ones
all...
through the firehouse. They got up through the floor.
Yeah, and then like Scotty was like dressing it, like Scotty and Ray were like dressing them on plates of acrylic.
Okay.
And then,
how they stood up and they drilled them into the ground.
Drilled them in, and then they were securely fastened so they didn't wobble around and break.
No.
Securely fastened with some fiberglass and clear resin, so they couldn't move. So that kind of gives it the frosted look at the bottom. That's what you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
A lot of experimentation of that in the early days.
Caracas crack.
Caracas crack.
Brilliant. So what was the most challenging? What was the one thing that stood out? That was the most challenging thing that you had to do?
Those goddamn bodies.
The bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, that was eventually in terms of manpower to actually get it done, because by the time we got the CNCs, we were 5 weeks to shoot.
Right.
And we had to do a lot in a very short amount of time. So in the end, that was me, Roxy, Stewie, and then we had Mike and Emma and David, and then painting we had Laura Skinner, who's fantastic, and then I think Emma Proctor, she was helping us with the molding. Once the molding was done, she hopped off and helped Laura with all the painting.
Right.
She did.
So like there was like a team of 7 of us for basically the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks just doing those, nothing else. Stewie was obviously, because he was the mold room supervisor and breakaway supervisor, he like sometimes he couldn't be there every single day, so he'd have to, maybe there was an effect going on that he needed to be on set for, so it was then, you know, like he sort of trusted us to kind of carry on and do what we were doing and get it sort of made. And I mean, we did it. We did it.
We did.
I mean, we did. I mean, let's see.
Very long hours.
Well, that was the most challenging.
That was definitely the most challenging.
I mean, for an introduction to a movie, that first scene was just incredible, wasn't it? It was amazing. See
an interesting little tidbit that where they have the doors that the smoke comes through. So the smoke was practical. That's actually my nephew's school, because he goes to. He goes to Tring Academy of Arts and Acting and stuff. So
that's what they use.
That's where that was shot. Like that staircase is at the Tring Art School, and the doors are at the art school, and then the actual ballroom itself is a set back at Winner.
It's been built.
So
if I was ever going to work in movies, I want to be the person that finds places. You know, go out and find
locations. Nice
location. Stuff. somewhere hot and sunny on a beach. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, well, I'm not really sure that the Maldives is cutting it, so if we could just fly me to Jamaica and go and have a look.
Is there a local
Yeah.
school?
Out there from the school.
Brilliant. So, yeah, I don't know. Okay, yeah, brilliant. So, how closely does your team? How closely do you guys work with like the production team and the director? How does that work? So, if some, I mean, are you there? You there when that goes
We
off?
had a lot of, in the beginning, we had a lot of meetings with the director, Gil Keenan.
That was before I joined.
Yeah, before you joined. So it was, in the beginning, it was just me, Stewie, and David.
Pinky, yeah.
Pinky, yeah. Not Italian,
Italian
David, but this is another David.
Pinky.
Another
Yes.
Yeah.
Who we nickname is Pinky.
Don't want to know.
Apparently, it's because he wore a pink T-shirt to school once.
No,
And
it was a
stuck.
pink jumper, I think.
Yeah, it was something like that.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, it just stuck. But basically, we would have Gil Keenan would come in, and also Eve Stewart, who was the production designer.
Yeah, brilliant.
And they were sort of like saying what kind of effects they were after with the ice, and we would sort of come up with like different designs of what we had made. And I had like this little wooden frame which had different types of icicles hanging from it, and some of them we found the technique that we really liked was the plastic vac form, but the miniature versions we were using just like a heat gun because we were just playing with different sort of sizes. We didn't know how big they wanted these at that point. At that time, we were playing around with like different types of resin. There was a type of resin which was called 007. Now the reason for that name is because that was used on the 007 films. Because that was also used for which one was it for the ice?
That would have been Die Another Day.
Die Another Day. Yeah, they used the
one with the invisible car.
Nice. Yeah, that's right. Yes.
With all the ice effects they used for that was that particular resin. So we thought, okay, let's play with that and see what that does. And we're just experimenting. And they would come to our workshop and just have a look and sort of make a decision and say, oh, do you think you can make this bigger? And then we had to sort of problem solve and think about how were we going to make this bigger?
Yeah.
Would it be achievable?
Have you ever said no, that'll never work? We can't do that.
No, we usually find a way.
Yeah, usually, but I think like when it came with the quantities with regards to the bodies, that's when we thought that's not work.
Like the effect is achievable, but not in the time frame that given us. So
also they wanted like a lot more. Originally they wanted loads and loads and loads of spiky ices. Like they wanted the whole room to be filled.
Yeah, that changed a few times.
Yeah, that changed quite a lot as well. So there were some things where we thought, we can make this many but in such a short amount of time, because originally they wanted Ghostbusters to come out in December last year.
They pushed it right, didn't they, to the March? Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And I remember Stewie and I were saying back in January, we were like, well, that's going to change because that's just, they're going to have to do a lot more with, post-production and things. And in March,
I mean, there's a lot more involved, like direct involvement, like on our level, than there would normally be on a shoot. So normally it would be HOD and maybe the appropriate supervisor for whatever, like whoever's doing and maybe one other person whoever's doing the effect, and it's usually senior. So like it was there was a lot more there was a lot of interaction on the particular show, and there was a lot of appreciation.
Actually
really nice.
They really were super happy with everything that we were doing.
Oh, fabulous.
JR was lovely. Jason
Reitman.
He was very sweet. It's quite funny.
He had a lot of involvement in it, but it's how much
he did actually. He did.
Obviously he done Afterlife, and he's got big involvement. His dad done the first two films, and he's got such a heart for Ghostbusters, hasn't he?
He was heavily involved. Like you'd see him, like if you were on set, I'm pretty sure you probably would have seen him every day. But
him around.
he wandered through the workshops at least once a week.
Yeah,
like we always saw him coming in to have a look.
Yeah,
and you know, like.
And he said that for the sticky shop, it was very. That's what we call our department because we work with a lot of stuff. Sticky stuff. Sticky stuff. He was saying that the smell he found very nostalgic because, of course, when he was a kid, he would walk around the workshops and the sets as well. So like all that lovely fiberglass and resin, he was a lacking the smell. No, I was saying he was really nice, like introducing himself. So when
he was very good.
He came around to our workshop. I had I'm pretty accident prone. I had burnt my hand on the wax, and I had this like gel thing, and I had a glove on my right hand. And of course, he was introducing him, saying, "Hi, I'm JR, blah, 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 blah." So, of course, I shook him with my weird hand, which had the little squishy gel thing. And I could just see in his eyes, like, "What's wrong with your hand?" When I shook it, I was like, "Oh, fuck. I used my weird hand on you. Sorry." I didn't say that. I was like, "Oh, nice to meet you." Oh, shit. Okay, I'm just going to carry on doing what I'm doing.
I'll turn around and carry on.
Yeah, my weird gammy gel.
Brilliant. Have you got any other like behind the scenes, no one knows about anecdotes? You know, what happened on set? Anything that come on.
I mean, to be fair, I wasn't on set all that much. Like I was on set for the day that we actually shot the bodies. I was on set for the day that we did the slime. And then I was
it took us 4 hours to clean up the slime afterwards.
And then I was on set.
Yeah, that's basically it.
I did say to Roxy whilst we were cleaning up, because Erica and Shaquila were with us, I was like, I did notice how the boys left the 4 girls here to clean up after them.
And
Rupert, bless him, our trainee.
He got us snacks.
He did get us snacks. Snacks and bin liners.
Snacks and bin liners.
Do I need to know?
We put the slime in bin liners.
No, we put that in buckets.
Yeah.
But yeah, apart from that, the only other time I was on set was for the scene in Melody's Diner where the windows blow out. That was the only other scene that I was on set for.
So you did that. Did you do the effects for the?
Yeah, I was assisting Martin Neal, who was basically he was put in charge of that. So he just wanted. I was very, very pleased to hear that he requested me. It was like, oh, I felt my ego go through the roof. But it was just help, like sort of tacking the sugar glass, like big panes of sugar glass into the frames, and then help with like swapping them out when they wanted to reset. So because I think we'd prepped up like 4 or 5 sets, and I think we ended up getting it in like 3 takes or something. So we didn't even use all of them, but it was basically an extra pair of hands to help tack things into place, and then there was a little bit of faffing and dressing to do with them. And then actually dressing them into set when they wanted them. I think there ended up being 4 of us on the day. But yeah, there was. I mean, the guys had loads of fun experimenting with, like I said, going around like puppeteering bin liners, or making. I think Dougie was making like potato shaped things that ended up being pukey on the screen.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember who it was who did the tricycle. Was that Colin who did the tricycle?
I think it was Colin.
So the tricycle
practical at the end, the bike, little.
No. Yeah.
That's practical.
They have little servos or something, remote control.
Yeah. I work with chemicals. I work with chemicals and I stick stuff on people's faces. That's pretty much my. Not
that part. That's the very talented engineers department. That's like. That was another thing I remembered I did, which also wasn't used. The ghost that was punching through.
The ghost that was in the. There was meant to be a ghost in a ghost trap. That was like punching and trying to get out, and we were
not the ghost trap. It was the red. What was it?
Containment unit.
Thank you. Containment unit.
But wasn't that the thing where we were like, hey, it'd be really funny if the shape that came out was a butt?
Yeah. I was saying that to Hugh Miller, who was working on that effect. But no, I was making the piece for the containment unit because it was painted red.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to have a rig where I think when one of the characters was coming to check, like once it had sort of cracked and stuff and sort of like on the verge of exploding, there's a ghost that sort of punches through and you see like a dent. I made the piece for that with Hugh Miller and Nick.
They didn't use it.
But they didn't use it.
They didn't use. There was so when
I went up the step and they didn't use it.
Well, there was the wall in the basement as well, which was one of the first things that was up. The wall in the basement. We were meant to see that, like, you weren't meant to like go away and come back and oh god, it's collapsed. It was meant to be that the collapse was actually meant to be in camera, but I don't think they ever got around to shooting that.
Okay. Yeah.
But they'll probably like put this in extended DVD or Blu-ray.
Can't wait for the Blu-ray. That's going to have hopefully everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever been on a shoot where we've had so many people visit. Like, I think it was when we had people like Stephen Merchant and like who else was it? Like there was a couple of like Belgian DJs who were apparently a really big deal. Yeah, there was a magician guy who came. There's loads of TikTokers who I think the guys spent a day teaching them how to make slime. Obviously Adam Savage. I think Elton John and his family came at one point. I didn't realise like how big a deal.
Yeah, like
Ghostbusters is just. I mean, I obviously grew up with Ghostbusters and seeing the new generation now starting to kick in. And I mean, my group, we're starting to do workshops for the younger generation. You know, give them information about what certain things do and build stuff. And our first one is tomorrow, and I can't wait. It gives me goosebumps to see the next generation just love it like I used to love it, and I still do. You know, it's massive. It really is.
Wonderful.
I mean, what was great about this for special effects is that Gil Keenan literally said to John that he wanted to do as much practically as possible.
Yeah.
So that means that I think like there's 90% of everything you see on that screen is practical.
Yeah.
I love
the slide it was there.
This film, I mean, Afterlife was brilliant, but this film took me back to the 80s with the special effects, and I think that's what makes Ghostbusters so brilliant because it's all it's there, it's tangible. So, in your mind, what makes special effects more important than visual and other effects? What's your?
I don't think they're both just as important.
I don't think it's necessarily more important. I think the difference between the two is obviously like things like actors actually really like it when you can do something practically. It gives them something to obviously bounce off of rather than just like a tennis ball.
Yeah.
To be honest, the visual effects guys love it when we can do something practically because it means half the work is done for them. They don't have to, and they love seeing things like even the visual effects guys still love seeing things done practically.
Yeah.
I think if it's best when the two things can complement each other.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I mean,
when they gel together.
You were saying with the green screen, doing things practically with the green screen and stuff like that. That kind of.
So when you can do something for real in front of a green screen and then they can map it into a shot, it looks real because the thing was physically there. It's just that the background has changed. That's all. So, but I mean, it's things like this. It's the sort of thing that Lord of the Rings got right. The first one, like the Battle of Helm's Deep, they literally had like 400 extras in makeup, and then they just multiplied them in the computer. And I mean, if you look at it now, like you can see like there's that block and there's that block. Like you can see where they are now, but like at the time it came out like 20 years ago, you're looking at it going, that's immense and that's amazing.
Yes.
And that's where they kind of it did it right in terms of how to complement the departments. So
good. Good. So we don't hate on those guys.
No, we don't. Never hate. Never hate.
Not at all.
No. Never hate.
We're a team. We're a team.
No, good. That's so good to hear.
Together to make
it's not like a them and us thing. It's we'll work with them.
At the end of the day, we're all kind of working towards the same the same goal.
Yeah,
like we're trying to make
basically.
trying to make a good movie.
Yeah.
So like
we're trying to make the job as easy as possible for each of us.
So like special effects will liaise with props, they'll liaise with costume, they'll liaise with on this one they had to liaise with makeup.
Actually.
And then obviously liaise with visual effects, because like they need, each department needs to know what each one is doing. Like obviously if we've got somebody in props who's making so like the sparking proton pack,
yes,
obviously that was, it had to match what props had already made. So like that's where you have to communicate. And obviously the icicles and stuff were down to like how Eve and Gil wanted them to look. So that sort of crosses into art department.
It seems to me like there's like a web of departments.
Yeah, it really is.
How is it in terms of communication? Is it good? Is communication good, or is there often issues?
I mean, I think it depends on who you're working with. I feel like Ghostbusters had pretty good communication.
Yeah,
good.
But I mean, then again, we weren't dealing with that part, because we were just like making.
Yeah, we were just the little dog's bodies.
Yeah, we were the ones who were
making things.
You never heard of anything being like a struggle to find, we need this, we can't get it, someone wants that and we can't do that. It all kind of was quite cohesive, quite good.
I think sometimes there were moments where like something was short stocked and like we needed it the next day and we couldn't get it until like a few days later, but nothing sort of major.
There was nothing that would like have stopped filming.
Nothing stopped filming. No, that's good. Oh, fabulous.
It was all pretty good.
So I mean, like generally, like I mean, obviously the schedule changes, but in terms of when things are actually, I mean, thankfully they pushed the bodies from the beginning of the shoot to the end of the shoot.
Yeah, that's the thing. That happened quite a lot. They changed the dates for the bodies quite a lot, actually. It was more than twice. But that was a huge relief.
It did go from the start of the shoot to the end of the shoot.
Because at one point, me and Stu were saying, I don't actually know how we're going to make this in time. And we were saying, like, we really hope that they're going to push it. And they did. So
do you think there was an influence there? Do you think they might have thought we might want to give them a bit more time to do this?
Well, I mean, considering they hadn't cast anybody yet, they were like, oh, we're probably going to need more time to do this as well.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So looking back then, from what you have done on Ghostbusters, would you have done anything different? Would you have like would doing something slightly different made it easier or quicker, or what's your take on that? Is there anything?
I feel like I mean, like I can only really speak from like the body's point of view, because that was like my main job, but I don't think there's anything that I would particularly do differently. Like the molds worked. We got the results we wanted. I guess the only thing that would have been handy would have been maybe an easier way of swilling them, but like I don't really know.
One of those big tumbler machines.
I think like we did think about that, because props had a caster, but the thing with that is like you have to cap the whole thing off and keep it closed, and obviously then the heat's got no way of escaping. So like this was one of the things we thought about, was like, well, if it stays closed, not only is it going to take longer to cool down, it's also, it might sweat. Like we didn't know how that was going to work. So that was one of those things that we saw. But yeah, that would probably be the only thing that we could do better next time, is maybe a better, less kind of back-breaking way of casting the bodies. I
think considering what was given pretty well.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, I'd do that job again in a heartbeat. If that came back, I'd be like, yes.
Yeah.
There's got to be another film. There has to be.
I mean, that's exactly what Gil and JR have said they want to do.
They've stored Firehouse away.
Yeah, they've stored the Firehouse.
Nice. Good to know.
So, yeah. That was quite cool. Like we never went on the pole though, did we?
No.
Did you go up the stairs?
Yeah. So Firehouse, they actually built the full level. And the basement was somewhere in one of the other.
Yeah, it was quite funny. So the external of the firehouse and the downstairs bit that you see the Ecto 1 reverse back and stuff in, that was over at Shinfield. That was in a separate studio.
And then the rest of Firehouse,
there was the kitchen and the floor above, and then the top floor were in one stage, and then like the basement was in a completely different stage, like just tucked off to the
all
side.
of those, that was at Winner's Triangle.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
It was all near Reading. How glorious! How they're so
close to home. Nice.
Reading is the next Hollywood.
Yeah.
No, originally they used obviously the external is in Tribeca, but the internal was actually in Philadelphia in a completely different firehouse, which was about 5 foot wider. Did you know that?
Oh, no, did not know that.
No.
Yeah,
did not.
I think it's Philadelphia.
Although
Someone's got a comment now and go, no, you're wrong. It was
I did. I went on holiday in the middle of all of this just to make it more difficult for myself. So I was going to a wedding for a friend in New York State, and obviously, whilst I was there, I had to take a photo in front of the firehouse.
Yeah.
So sent it on our group WhatsApp and was like, "Hey, everybody!"
But you missed the
I'm here.
Yeah, the upshot of that was that I missed the cast and crew.
So one thing we have with films, like when we're getting close to wrap, is a cast and crew photo. So they're saying,
Alex,
meet at a certain time. Yeah, and they get like
he got back.
Through. So I made it. I'm like,
they literally notified
somewhere in the background. They didn't give a lot of notice.
No, they literally notified.
They never do
on the day of.
Yeah,
and I happened to be sitting on a 747.
Yeah. Alex was on a plane when they gave us the notification, and they notified us like on the day. And you know, if you were busy, then you couldn't make
to get hold of the photographer.
Yeah. So that
I wish
was
I'm a photographer. I'd do it.
Yeah, come on.
So, for young aspiring special effects artists, then what would be your main? How would you get into the industry? How would you tell someone now how to get? Where you are now, working on something like Ghostbusters.
I would say networking is extremely important.
Yeah.
It's good to sort of get a name out there, find out. So what I did was I would look like at the credits of my favorite films, and then in the particular department that I wanted to sort of try out or work in, I would see like who was in charge, and then see if I could try and get in touch with them. You'd find out which workshop they're working in, and then
stalk them. Exactly.
Yeah, basically stalk them. Stalk them like there's no tomorrow, and be persistent. Don't give up. It's really hard. But again, you just got to be really stubborn, and
things are a little bit different now from when we started out, just because I think Facebook makes everything a little bit easier. Maybe.
And the social media has actually been quite beneficial, I think, with a lot of creative artists with regards to sort of getting into a certain industry. So I think that's also been quite beneficial in itself. Like the net is vast. It's amazing what kind of information you can get from that.
If you're going to use your Facebook, don't put anything on there that's like vague booking. Don't post on there that you're like nothing super personal. Like literally, if you go onto my Facebook, it's all about work or parrots, and that's literally it.
And I don't even have Facebook anymore. I left that 3 years ago. So,
but yeah, like I've
got Instagram, but I only use that for work.
I mean, it'll be one of those things where, like, obviously, if you're adding people as friends with the prospect of getting work, and then they see something that maybe is like. They'll think twice.
A bit detrimental to
it could be detrimental. So like it's one of those things where it's like it is because it's right there. It is really easy to like post, I'm having a really bad day, blah blah blah. I would recommend you talk to a close friend or family member rather than posting on Facebook, because that is the sort of thing that people look at. And unless you've got somebody that you've already worked with that kind of knows you pretty well. Like that, especially when you're starting out, that could potentially do you some damage, because like there's enough of us who are unhinged working in the industry.
I think you'd have to be quite unhinged to work in the industry anyway.
We find it pretty well. Here. But I would also say just like make yourself indispensable. Like that's what I've done. Is like I started out in this industry wanting to do makeup and wanting to do creatures, And although I can still do the beauty stuff, I can still do the hair stuff and everything like that. Like I think I've kind of found in certainly working with John and Stewie and Roxy and like it's kind of like a little family.
You're welcome.
It's kind of like a little family. So like you will find that you will kind of you may start up in one place and think that's where you really want to be. Like I really wanted to do special effects makeup, and that is still one of my passions.
Yeah.
But I have found a team that I like to work with, and that is kind of more important.
Yeah.
Like you can still enjoy your job and find somebody or a team that you get along with well, that you gel with well, that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can learn something from.
Yeah.
Like I mean, and in the beginning, I would say like, okay, so you want to be special effects. Don't limit yourself to just special effects. Like I've done props, I've done special effects makeup, I've done like, and every single department, I have learned something new. And every single time I change departments, I learn something new, and it makes I feel like it makes me like kind of better at what I'm doing, and I feel like it helps me bring something else to whatever we're doing. Like there'll be a suggestion like, oh wait, I used this whilst I was working in props on such and such. Like maybe we should try that, and like we try it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But like that's what it's about. It's about trying all these different materials so that you find the effect that you want. And to be fair, like my first experience in special effects, I honestly thought it wasn't for me. I really didn't. And that wasn't Doctor Strange 2. I'm not going to say which film it was. I honestly thought it wasn't for me. I wasn't having a great time. I didn't particularly enjoy the job. I, I got on okay with the people, but I sort of felt like I wasn't really a part of anything.
Which is also why it's important to basically find your tribe.
Literally, it ended up basically making me a bit depressed. So I ended up leaving that job after only 4 weeks and going on to Star Wars Episode 9 in action vehicles.
Star Wars? No,
Alex worked on Star Wars.
Star Wars Episode 9 in action vehicles. So and that was the best, most exhausting 5 weeks of my life.
And that was with Sean.
It was awesome. It was 7 days a week. It was full on for 5 weeks straight. Like it was. I mean, technically, you'd think it was hell, but I was really enjoying getting up and going to work at 7 o'clock and not getting home until 9 o'clock at night.
I can feel the passion. Yeah, I can feel the passion. And when you like doing something, never really work, is it? Let's face it.
No.
Well, I mean, this
really love doing it.
Like we were making all the like the speeder bike seats and the big triangular-y Toblerone looking things and stuff like that. That's what we were making on that. And
brilliant, I love it.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, it was basically a final push so that they could ship everything to Jordan in time for shooting. But because I was working with people that I knew or that I had maybe met before, and they knew my skill set, it was much easier for me to kind of get in the swing of it and basically just kind of get on with my job, but also
is why networking is really important. So the more you network, the more people get to know what it's like working with you, and then they'll think, this person, I've got on quite well with. And again, it's not always about what you do, but also who you know. Get on with the person, then they'll be willing to give you a chance and say, okay, let's
get your name in the hat every time they get the chance.
So I think number one thing that you can do yourself a favor and just network. Go to conventions. There's something called a prosthetics event, which happens every November. And
that's specifically if you want to get into makeup stuff.
That's if you want to do makeup stuff. But I just in general, that's also good to network with people who are in the industry, and you can talk to people and find out like how did they do it. Everyone has a different story, which is what's really amazing about this industry is everyone's story is different to how they got into it. I mean, I didn't even study it. The thing I studied was animation, but again, that still sort of had some form of creativity to it, which I still learned something which I'm using in my skill set. So it wasn't a complete waste. But everyone has like a different journey on how they got into film, and it is possible to get into it.
I would also say wherever you are, ask questions.
Always ask questions. So what Alex means by that is when you're in a workshop, ask like
Erica and Shaquila were really good at it.
Yes, so our trainees, Erica and Shaquila, they were really good
at it, and they were like, "Oh, I see you're gonna like." They would come over and say, "Oh, can you let me know when you're going to be fiberglassing?"
And take notes as well. Yeah. That's also really good. They took notes as a trainee.
Take notes, take photos, whatever you want.
Yeah,
like literally.
But don't share the photos because you signed your NDA in blood, so you can't share it until the film's out.
But no, they were really good. Like if they wanted to learn something, they'd just come over and let us know, or they'd come over and see that we were doing something different.
They would ask, why are you doing that, or what's the process for this, or why does it need to be done like that?
And like if you're then doing something with someone and you're not sure of the process, but they're meant to, obviously they like you'd be with somebody who's guiding you.
Yeah.
Ask the question a million times.
Yeah.
Ask it over and over and over again.
There's no such thing as asking too many times. There's no such thing as sounding stupid and. Just if you're not sure, ask.
Like basically, at the end of the day, somebody's going to be infinitely more annoyed at you for not asking a question or not asking a question again than they are for you asking that question over and over again. Like I don't mind if somebody asks me the same question like 4 or 5, 6, 700 times in a row. If you do something wrong, and I know you've asked that question, but you then haven't asked that question again, or you haven't double checked, and then I find out that that's gone wrong because you haven't. Like you're not sure and you haven't asked, I'm going to be infinitely more irritated than I would be if you just ask me again.
Don't be afraid to ask, basically.
Even if I do have resting bitch face.
Oh, ladies, it's been such a pleasure to talk to. Do you know what? I could talk for hours, but I've got to go to bed at some point. I'm joking.
Bed. That's bed.
How amazing it's
That's
been.
another thing. If you like sleep, then don't join the industry.
I've got insomnia. I'm right.
Hey.
It's just been amazing to talk to you girls. I'm jealous because you do what you do, and it's so amazing. I like I said before, I can't make anything. I can't. I can do a little bit of DIY here and there. It'll break within 5 minutes because I'm that bad at it. But
perfect.
Not enough screws or duct tape. That's your problem.
Yeah, that's it. I just think it's amazing, and just to be working on the film. I'd do anything. I'll sweep up. I don't mind. I'll do anything.
That's what we've been saying for the last 10 months because the strikes have.
Oh my God, I know.
Strikes, yeah, absolutely.
Strikes. Yeah, that's really hit hard.
So before you go, are you working on anything else at the moment? Are you allowed to talk about anything else?
Not allowed to say.
No, I mean I've just started on dailies on something in props for a few weeks, but I'm not sure I'd be allowed to say what it is.
Yeah, it's not kind of stuff. You can't say what type of thing you might be making or painting or.
That would probably be worse than me saying what the project is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Find it in blood.
Yeah.
It's done.
But you are working though. You're both working. You're doing stuff.
You're not currently working in the industry. There's not enough.
I did something recently. But it's very patchy at the moment, on and off.
Well, I mean, we can. No, I don't know whether we can talk about that one either. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think we can.
No, I don't think we can. One was basically we both worked together very recently on something for a window display, but we're not going to say who it's for.
Yeah.
And then I've literally just done a week at Shepperton on a thing that is meant to be finishing in September. But I'm only there.
Star Wars related.
No, I can tell you it's definitely not Star Wars related. But I'm not.
But you signed it in blood, so you can't say anymore. So
don't say anything.
But I'm not a permanent part of the team, so I'll only be there for a few.
Oh, I love it.
We get on so well. Can you tell?
Yeah. Who's the chatty one?
I saw her sign it in blood. They like to use blood.
I've always got.
Not a vampire. I know I'm mentioning blood quite a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
That's why I've got.
Right then. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. It's been amazing. We've learned so much behind the scenes stuff that it's just I'm gonna watch it back and cry. And I hope to see some of the stuff. I really hope to see some of the stuff that you've been talking about in the special edition stuff. I really do. I hope we do.
I mean, I'm sure they'll put it in.
I mean, we've been able to we've now been able to share stuff on our Instagram, haven't we? So we've shared stuff on our Instagrams. So if anybody wants to look at pictures there,
I'll make sure they're in the description.
Oh
yeah, Roxy will give you our handles.
I will be following you. Do I follow you yet? I don't know if I did follow you, but I will. I'll make sure that Portsmouth Ghostbusters. I know Portsmouth Ghostbusters Instagram account will follow you both. I'll make sure that.
Yay!
Fabulous.
I'll message you our handles, and you can put them on the link, or
I'll put them down in the description of this video. Fantastic. YouTube. You got any questions? What didn't I ask? What is going on? Leave them in the comments down below, and we'll see if we can get an after video thing going somewhere. That would be awesome. Remember, they've signed an NDA, so they can't tell you what they're doing next.
Can talk about anything that was pre-March this year.
Yeah,
I was like anything that we worked on pre-March this year.
Pre-March.
I think that's all been released.
Yeah.
So
Aquaman, whatever.
Yeah, Aquaman, the Marvels,
Flash,
the Flash, Witcher.
Not the end of the Flash. We don't want to know about that. Just the Batman stuff. Well, YouTube, thank you very much. Thanks, ladies. You've been a star. Both been stars.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
We'll see you on the next video.